and welcome to your primetime news bulletin on TV1 and Shakti TV. Let's start off with a look at the headlines.
Death toll from the disaster situation climbs to 177, 109 people missing. Sri Lanka Air Force helicopter crash lands during relief operations. Pilot's skill saves 11 lives. Newsfirst reaches previously inaccessible areas in Fahian Cave and Kalawana. National Disaster Management Council to convene tomorrow. Schools in 8 districts closed for the week. Sahana Yatra Janahanda Mehima continues.
President Maithripala Sirisena chaired a special meeting on the disaster situation in the Ratnapura district this morning. The president outlined the government's immediate plans and spoke of the foreign aid donated to the country.
All public officials, security forces commanders, ministers and MPs from the Ratnapura district were present for the meeting held at the Ratnapura Divisional Secretariat. The government will provide all the necessary funds and resources. As was proposed by the gentleman here, I will return in another 2 months to identify the lands and decide on appropriate measures. The National Disaster Management Council will meet tomorrow. After considering the situation across the country and in these districts, the necessary decisions will be made. We have received much aid from foreign nations, including India, in response to the request we made. This aid will also be distributed to the people in these areas as per the need.
Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa spoke to the media today, appealing for the people to work together at this time of disaster.
We express our condolences to the victims of this disaster. We express our condolences to the families of the deceased. At this time, I wish to call on the people, casting aside all divisions of caste, creed, race and politics. It is necessary to follow circulars. There may be some who are worried about the consequences of acting in violation of circulars, but you must forget about this. Forget the circulars. I believe the President too has said this very clearly, and I believe that he will protect those officials.
Housing and Construction Minister Sajith Premadasa has pledged to swiftly restore homes that were destroyed by the disaster. Speaking at an event held in Tangol yesterday, the minister had this to say.
අපි සම්ප්‍රදානුකූල රාමුවෙන් පිටපැනලා රෙගුලාසි චක්‍රලේඛ.
The woe felt by these people will not dissipate just because they are given some water. We will cast aside the frameworks and the regulatory circulars and extend our hands to provide relief to our people to ensure that they are able to have a better livelihood than they did before. I wish to give a clear message to all the people who lost their homes to floods. Do not worry about anything. In the name of my father, President Ranasinghe Premadasa, who revolutionized housing in this country, with the strength of His Excellency the President and the Prime Minister, we will definitely resolve the housing problem. We will restore the homes that were damaged and destroyed.
විනාශ වුණු නිවාස අනිවාර්යෙන්ම ගොඩනගනවා. ඒක ස්ථිරයි.
The event was organized to provide bottles of drinking water to families in the Tangol Administrative Division who were affected by the flooding. Minister Premadas also inspected the Marakollia Kapuhenwala bridge in Tangol, which was damaged by the flooding.
We now have News First's Shane Silva standing by on news on the extreme weather. Shane?
Thank you, Jitendra. In the relief efforts in the wake of the extreme weather conditions that are taking place over the country in the past few days, an Mi-17 helicopter of the Sri Lanka Air Force crash landed in the Mahawata area in Inimankara, Baddegama during rescue operations this morning.
11 Air Force personnel were on board the helicopter at the time of the crash. The pilot of the helicopter was able to crash land the helicopter and ensure that all personnel on board were unharmed. We took off from the Koggala Air Force Base to distribute flood aid. We saw some people stranded in one location. We hovered in the area to send food down a rope. That was when the helicopter crashed. Incidents like this do happen during such risky operations. We as Air Force pilots are trained for situations like this. So this training was used to make a controlled force landing in the Baddegama area without causing any human casualties. We will not halt our relief operations just because of this incident. We will continue to distribute aid to those affected by the flood.
A
technical fault had arisen when they were preparing to lower the cable while hovering. The helicopter cannot be flown elsewhere in such a situation, so it had to land as soon as possible. There was no area to land because the entire area was flooded, so our pilot made the correct decision to make a controlled, forced landing.
Squadron leader Banuka Delgahagoda also received praise from President Maithripala Sirisena via telephone for his bravery.
The death toll from the disaster situations across the island prompted by the heavy downpours has climbed to 177 according to the latest figures issued by the Disaster Management Centre. 109 people are missing while 75,000 are displaced and are being sheltered in 366 designated safe locations. The Disaster Management Centre adds that more than 550,000 people have been affected.
A Newsfirst team reached the village of Nagadola near Fahian Cave, which had been inaccessible for several days today. Our reporter noted that an earth embankment on Fahian Cave had collapsed onto the river, causing it to divert course and flow through the village of Nagadola. Villagers say that between 25 and 30 people who are residing in homes buried by the earth are still missing.
The landslide struck around 2 in the morning. Around 2:45, a strong gush of water came down. It destroyed all the houses. 27 people died in a landslide on the other side. Only one body was found. The body was buried wrapped in just a wax paper.
While walking through the village, our team came across a man who had just buried his 4-year-old son who was killed in the disaster. Many parts of the Kalutara district, including Panapitia and Kalutara North, are still submerged. The Disaster Management Centre says 54 deaths have been reported from the Kalutara district, while 57 people remain missing. The centre added that 107,906 people from 29,199 families in the district are affected by the adverse weather. Floodwaters in the Ratnapura town have receded and vehicles could be seen on the roads. 10 homes were damaged in a landslide on Tibbatukanda in Karadana, Ahaliagoda. Our reporter added that a school in the Karadana North area was flattened when an earth embankment collapsed. The Disaster Management Centre put the death toll in the Ratnapura district at 77, while 28 people are unaccounted for. It adds that 112,928 people from 29,345 families remain affected. Floodwaters have receded in Hiniduma, Nelluwa and Tavalama in the Gaul district, which were inundated following the heavy rains. Our report on the ground noted that many homes had been damaged in these areas. While the Baddegama gauge on the King River showed a slight dip in the water level at noon today, several parts of the Baddegama municipality were underwater. Gamagoda in Udugamagol is still inundated. Much of Atkandura is also still underwater, prompting our reporters to observe the disaster by boat. The Disaster Management Centre says 151,360 people of 38,155 families are affected in the Gaul district by the adverse weather, with 12 deaths being reported and 10 people being missing. A large area of Kotavela in Mathura is still under about 15 feet of water, while many people are still trapped on higher ground. Police used boats today to transport the sick to hospital. The Disaster Management Centre has put the death toll in the Mathura district at 21, with 14 people reported missing. It adds that the weather conditions has affected 131,775 people of 41,545 families.
Geologist Professor Kapila Dahanayaka spoke to the media today on the consequences of increased rainfall in the Central Hills.
We know that when the Central Hills receive sustained rainfall of more than 100 millimeters for a few days, landslides are triggered. There has been 200 to 300 millimeters of rainfall per day. These landslide-prone areas are not classified as recently discovered because we are already aware of the areas prone to landslides in Martale and Kandy as well as in Nuwara. Therefore, if those areas receive rainfall, there will be landslides in the Central Hills. Therefore, people living in slopes and estates must be more vigilant.
In the meantime, Education Minister Viraj Karyawasam says that schools in 8 districts affected by the extreme weather will be closed until Friday. Karyawasam made this statement at a joint media briefing convened by several ministries today.
We have received comprehensive reports on the disaster-affected areas and reports are continuing to flow in. Having studied the situation, we have decided to close schools in the following districts for the next 4 days. It has been decided to close schools in the Gampaha, Colombo, Kalutara, Ratnapura, Gaul, Mathura, Hambantota and Kegaul districts until Friday. Many children from Kalutara and other areas travel to schools in the Colombo district. We have also decided to give a set of 3 free uniforms to each child affected by the disaster. We will also provide them with textbooks and a pair of shoes each.
පාසල් දරුවෙකුට නිල ඇඳුම් කට්ටල 3ක් පමණ ලබා දෙන්න. ඒ වගේම මේ සියලුම දරුවන් සඳහා පෙළපොත් ලබා දෙන්න අපි තීරණය කරලා තියෙනවා. ඒ වගේම මේ සපත්තු කුට්ටම බැගින් ලබා දෙන්න අපි තීරණය කරලා තියෙනවා. වාසවල විනාශයට පත් වුණු විදුලි
Free electricity meters will be provided to homes where the meters have been damaged. The CEB will also re-examine the wiring in these homes free of charge. If there are bills which are in arrears for the homes which have been inundated, then we have decided to grant a 6-month grace period.
එනිසා විදුලි බල මණ්ඩලය මේ වෙලාවේ සම්පූර්ණ උපරිම කැපවීම මේ කරදරයටපත් අපේ පාරිභෝගිකයින් අපේ ජනතාව අපේ සහෝදරින් සලකලා කටයුතු කරන්න සූදානම් වෙලා ඉන්නවා. අපේ ප්‍රමිතිය පිළිබඳව කිසිම සැකයක් කවුරුත් තියාගන්න අවශ්‍ය.
There need not be any doubts regarding the quality of the water. I must clearly state that the National Water Supply and Drainage Board guarantees the quality of the water being supplied. Once the flood waters have receded completely, we will have to embark on a major operation to clean up wells. In areas like Ranna, Tangol and the Hiowita, we will only be able to do this once the flood waters have receded completely. We held discussions regarding the damage that has been caused to supply lines near the Kalaturana Research Laboratory in Labugama. We have immediately commenced repair work there with the assistance of our trade unions.
පිළිබඳවත් දැන් අපි සාකච්ඡා කරා. ඒ සඳහා වූ අපේ වෘත්තීය සමිතියින් ගේ ආධාරයත් සමග එකතුවත් සමග අපි ඒකට අවතීර්ණ වෙන්නත් දැන් සැලසුම් හදාගන්නවා.
This afternoon, Faraz Shaukat Ali raised the question with the Defence Secretary Karunasena Hettiarachchi of what looks like a failure of the Disaster Management Committee to deal with the current crisis in the country.
Disaster management should identify the evacuation centers and locate them, plan them properly so that the people can go to, if they have to find high grounds and a place to live, because this flooding situation you always associated with rainfall, right? So they need some shelter. So therefore I think we need to have a comprehensive integrated plan for the Disaster Management Ministry, how they should handle such situation.
Mahina joins us now from the Newsfirst Weather Centre with the very latest on the extreme weather conditions. Mahina, over to you.
Thank you very much, Shane. Well, as you did mention during this bulletin, over 170 deaths and over 500,000 people affected. This is by far the worst flooding in Sri Lanka in over a decade. So how is this going to pan out in the next couple of days? Are we going to expect heavy rains? What's the situation like? This is a map of the Indian subcontinent or the Indian Ocean area surrounding Sri Lanka. As you can see, this cyclonic storm, which is now known as Mora, is moving away from Sri Lanka and moving upwards onto the Bay of Bengal and also towards Bangladesh. Now this cyclonic storm is set to make landfall in Bangladesh somewhere around tomorrow, and the Bangladeshi authorities have actually risen a storm danger level of 10, which is by far the highest danger level for a storm of this nature. So take a look at Sri Lanka. With the storm moving away from Sri Lanka, we could expect less rainfall to a certain extent, but there would be, of course, the showers in several parts of the island. It will continue, but there will be a few light drizzles which would help in the rescue and relief operations like we saw today. There were clear instances where helicopters were able to get on air, and also rescue missions and the much needed relief like drinking water for people will be able to distribute it today as well. Now this situation, the southern monsoon, is not uncommon to this part of the world, and actually most of the countries in this part of the world, like Sri Lanka, which depend on an agricultural economy, actually depend on these rainfalls for their livelihoods. And but the problem is that the rainfalls are very high this time, and if you look at Colombo, Ratnapura, Kalutara, Galle, Mathura, all these areas are expected to get rainfall. Sometimes rainfalls of up to 100 meters are expected. Also in the central hills of the country, which would trigger landslides, as we heard earlier on in the bulletin. So this is the situation. Hambantota and Nuwara, partly cloudy conditions, but some sunshine in those areas. However, there are we know that the northern part of the country was severely affected by the drought. Areas such as Mana, Vaunia, Batticaloa were heavily impacted by the drought. So there would be some rain in those areas as well. Rain is expected in the northern and north central provinces of Sri Lanka and in the Trincomalee district. Now these could be showers or thunder showers as well. Moving on to the wind speeds. Now we've got authorization from the Department of Meteorology stating that wind speeds packing up to 80 kilometers per hour could actually move from the eastern side, move towards Sri Lanka, and specifically in the western province. If you step out actually in central Colombo, you would feel the strength of these winds that could actually have a severe impact once again on the island. So moving on to the, let's take a look at this, this map. Now this shows the temperatures in the island. Now what is interesting to note is that yes, there has been rainfall, there has been floods happening in various parts of the island, but look at the temperatures. The temperatures are increasing from tonight to Tuesday to Wednesday. The temperatures are increasing in several parts of the island, especially in Batticaloa, Jaffna, up to at least 35 centigrades. It's increasing, and that is some sort of concern as well. And also another interesting fact is that we know that the landslide has been the worst form of disaster for people who have been ravaged by the incessant rains in the island, and many deaths have been reported mainly because of the landslides that have impacted districts such as Ratnapura. And the NBRO, that is the National Building Research Organization, is warning people that landslides may occur in Ratnapura, especially in Alapatha, Palmadulla, Kuruvita, Ahaliyagoda, Kiriyala, Imbulpe, Ayagama, Kahawatta, Kalawana, Kolonna and Nivithgala. And also in the Kegol district, Bulat, Kohupitiya, Deraniyagala, Yatiyantota and Dehiyovita. Galle too will be experiencing certain landslides, and that's specifically in areas such as Baddegama, Yakkalamulla and Nelluwa. Kalutara, which has been heavily affected by the floods this time around, will also be experiencing landslides in Bulat Singhala, Aglawatta and many other areas. Mathura 2 landslides in Kotapola, Pasgoda, Pitabaddara and Mulatiyana. Hambantota 2 will be experiencing landslides, Walasmulla and Katuana. Norelia, which we didn't really see much landslides happening, has also on the list, and the Abangamu Coral is actually one of the areas that's going to be having a landslide warning issued as well. So the hope is that the rains with the cyclone moving towards Bangladesh and moving away from Sri Lanka, that the rains will in fact recede, which would help the water levels in certain parts of the country recede, which would make it easier for people to obtain relief and also for rescue efforts to go on. We at News First will of course keep you fully updated on the rescue efforts, on the relief and also on the weather situation for the next couple of days. With that, we move back to the main news desk.
The Sirasa Shakti TV1 Sahana Yatra continued its distribution of relief material to those affected by the adverse weather today as well.
Relief items were collected at 3 collection centres, and within 24 hours these centres experienced a flood of donations. These donations were packaged and the distribution to the 5 affected districts commenced thereafter. The Newsfirst team, which set off to Kalutara, visited many areas along the Kalu River and distributed relief items to locals trapped in Palatota, Gamagoda, Ukwatta, Bolasagama, Kethena, Bombuala and Tebuana. The team had to undertake a treacherous journey in order to reach some of the areas, as all roads looked like waterways. The Sri Lanka Navy rendered its support to ensure that these relief items were distributed among those surrounded by water.
නාවික හමුදා බෝට්ටු දෙකක් සමග ඉන්දියානු නාවික හමුදාවේ බෝට්ටු දෙකකුත් අපිත් එක්ක සහායට ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවා.
The Newsfirst team, which travelled to the Mathura district, distributed relief items today as well without any rest. The team took the initiative to go in search of those stranded in little islands surrounded by floodwaters. They visited the areas of Akurasa, Athurelia, Mulatiyana, Pasgoda, Pahalatua, Unalla, Attudawa, Lenduwa, Kadittua, Katapodua, Madurduwa, Eduwa and many other areas.
මිනිස්සු මේ අසිරිතාවට පත් වෙලා ඉන්නේ ඔබතුමාලට ගොඩක් පුණ්‍යානුමෝදනාව පිළිගන්න.
මේ වතුරට හිර වෙලා ඉන්නේ අපිට යන්න තැනක් නැහැ. ඇත්ත මේ ලැබුණ දේවල් සියලු දේවල් බින්සිතු. ඉතින් අපේ ගේ යට වෙලා අපට කන්න බොන්න ඉන්න තැනක් නැහැ. ඔබතුමාලාට බොහෝම පින් සිද්ධ වෙනවා මේ දීපු දීව.
අපි අනාථ වෙලා ඉන්නේ මේ දැන් දවස් ගාණක් තිස්සේ මේ සිරසෙන් කරන මේ සායයට බොහොම ස්තුතියි.
විශාල උදව්වක් මේක. මොකද මේ කොටස මේ දුවකුට්ටියක් කිසි කෙනෙක් එන්නේ නැවත පැත්තක නිසා අනාථ කඳවුරක් නෙවෙයි. නමුත් දුවකුට්ටිය මිස් වටවලේ ඉන්නේ කිසිම උදව්වක් නැහැ. කාටවත් හරි යන්න පුළුවන් කමකුත් නැහැ. නමුත් මිස් කොටුවෙලේ ඉන්නේ. ඒ නිසා මේ සිරසෙන් ඇල්ල කරපු සේවාව ඉතින් අපි අගය කරන විශිෂ්ටම දෙයක් අත්‍තරම.
Donations that were handed over to the Sahana Yatra were also distributed among the flood-affected people in Ratnapura. The teams visited Godigamua, Mihindugama, Polhengoda and many other surrounding areas to distribute relief items. As some areas were not accessible by road, boats were used to carry the relief items to the people. Local authorities added that cooked meals are being flown in with the assistance of the Sri Lanka Air Force. The team which carried relief items to the Galle district visited Paddegama, which was the worst affected. Thereafter, they visited the villages of Kotagoda, Borulukada, Kihibiala, Ganegama, Dodangoda and many other affected villages. Relief items were also distributed throughout yesterday in the areas of Padukka, Hanwalla, Moragahatanna, Damboda and Tumodara.
Many of our staff returned to Colombo today after successfully distributing aid to disaster-stricken people through the Sahana Yatra program. Newsfirst Azra Assan spoke to the channel head of Sirasa TV, Chandana Surya Bandara, on his personal experience as part of the relief program in Mathura.
We were actually seeing the footage here, the visuals, but you were there. How did that affect you?
See now, it's really sad, right? Because now just think of a place where it's covered with entire place, entire village is covered with water, and you see some pockets. People are on top of those pockets, right? When you reach into that place, right, they hear the sound of boat coming in. So they scream, right? Ask him for help. What do they ask? They ask you specifically something, that is water and candles. Other than screaming and shouting, what can I do? You put your feet into their shoes and think, how do they feel? How will you feel? So these people are helpless. I felt that I am helpless.
Is there one image that will always stay with you?
Yes, yes. One lady was carrying an infant, right? Maybe 2 weeks. She was carrying this baby, and this baby was like crying throughout. And then she was trying to like. She all of a sudden she asked us, "Please help, right? I need some medicine." Because I have to feed, right? For feeding I'm taking a medicine, but I don't have it now. It's over, right? If I don't have that medicine, I can't feed this child, right? I am in that boat with our Shaman Daniel was there, and they were asking, she was asking medicine, but we had to come back if we have to take medicine from, we have to come like 1-2 kilometers, right? And it was not possible, right? We can't find medicine for each and every person who is asking.
In other local news, Foreign Affairs Minister Ravi Karunanayake made scathing comments which were published in a newspaper today regarding a ministerial colleague from his own party who was appointed through the national list.
Ravi Karunanayake had given an interview which was published in the Sinhala language daily Lanka today regarding losing the position of Minister of Finance and his new position as Foreign Minister. In the interview, Karunanayake had claimed that an individual who was appointed from his party's national list has no feeling towards the people and the country. The minister had noted that he would expose the true nature of this person in the near future and that there is a limit to his patience. Translated extract. This minister, who was appointed from the national list and is now dancing around wearing a mask, attempts to portray that he is protecting the Prime Minister. But what is happening is that the trust is being destroyed completely. When individuals like him who cannot get the vote of the people are steering the country forward, there is a problem. End of translated extract. Who is the foreign minister referring to?
The case pertaining to the illegal floating armoury maintained by Avantgarde Maritime Services Private Limited was taken up at the Colombo Magistrates Court today. The case has been filed against 8 suspects, including former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa, for allegedly allowing unjust enrichment for the company in question, which earned a profit of 11.4 billion rupees.
All of the suspects, with the exception of the second suspect, Damayanti Jayaratne, were present in court today when the case was taken up. The President's counsels appearing for the suspect requested the court to allocate a date to make oral submissions on the written submission filed by the Attorney General regarding Gotabaya Rajapaksa. The case will be taken up again on the 12th of July.
Motorsports rider Ananda Vedisinghe passed away this evening. He was being treated for serious injuries at the intensive care unit of the Kandy General Hospital following an accident last month. Ananda Vedisinghe met with a tragic crash at the Nuwara road race last month and was being treated at the ICU of the Kandy General Hospital ever since he was admitted. Doctors ruled that his spine and head suffered serious injuries. A common name in local racing sports, Ananda Vedisinghe is an 8-time Fox Hill Supercross champion. He was 47 years old at the time of his demise. We leave you this evening with a few words from Chandana Surya Bandara, who spoke to us early in the bulletin of his experience with the aid distribution team in Makra. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Jyoti Indipendasena.
And I'm Shayan Silva. Take care and good night.
Everyone should get together at this moment and do our small duty, right? There is a duty towards this entire crisis. I mean, we have to solve this crisis united. We can't be like pointing fingers at that person, this person. It is our nation, our country, our people. So we have to do whatever we can do. This is the... See, I think you have to go there and you have to feel what they are going through. Actually, it is a disaster. It is a disaster.